Walking down the avenue where we used to play. The house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children.
In Butt Lane, it used to be bread and butter and they go to, yeah, and it was rivalry, wasn't it, Phil?
I borrowed all your records, you borrowed mine from me. We sat.
Dave, it's been a while. What are we doing today?
It has. Today we've got two special guests who'll be joining us, but today we are going to be looking at Talke and Butt Lane. Okay. We're going to have a walk along the A34 to the top of Unity Way. We're going to look at the old Wesley Street, Thomas Street, John Street, along that area. From there we're going to go down to West Avenue. We'll have a wander down West Avenue, we'll look at how West Avenue's changed. We'll go down to the bottom of Mill Bank, Old Butt Lane, and then we'll head back up into Butt Lane itself. This is going to be done over two documentaries, because the next documentary is Talke and Talke Pits, so the two do overlap. If we think back to probably about 2 weeks ago, I put a post on Kidsgrove Past and Pictures asking, where does Talke start, where does Butt Lane finish? To which I received around about 40 replies, all slightly different, and nobody was wrong really, because over the years the boundaries have changed. But what was given to me was an Ordnance Survey map, well, goes back to 1830s. This is fantastic, and this clearly shows, first Ordnance Survey came out 1833.
Wow.
It clearly shows in there that Talke actually started where St Saviour's School is, just below us,
Yeah.
and actually finished at the Swan Inn.
Right, which is up here. Yeah.
Right at the top.
Yeah.
And that's where Talke Pits started, from St Martin's Church all the way down. So we've got Butt Lane, we know where Butt Lane is, we're going to have a wander, but to do that I'm no expert on Butt Lane or Talke. I've done a little bit of research, but I'm brought in two ex-residents who are a wealth of knowledge, and I think without further ado we'll bring them in and introduce them. Joined by our two guests for today, Mr. Phil Sherman in the corner, Phil, and Mr. Derek Big Flea Fowle, who's here by my side. Gents, thanks for volunteering to help me out on this one. Before I give you an outline of what we're going to actually be looking at, you give me a bit of insight into where you were born, how long you lived here, which school did you go? Decker, start with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I was born and raised in Wesley Street, which is just along the A34 there. We had a good upbringing. I used to go to school at St Saviour's, which is just down the road. And all the houses that are on that green over there, I should hazard a guess, just looking at it, there were 70 or 80 houses there when we were growing up. Some with outside toilets, some with pigeon lofts. It was a small area to get these houses into.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay, great. Phil?
I started school at Hilltop for a short period of time, and as I at the time lived on Culpert Hill. When I was around 5 years old, we moved down to what was called Mill Bank, which later became West Avenue as such, or Old Butt Lane. I then carried on school at Reginald Mitchell, and then moved up to Unity Way. So I've stayed in the area for around 40 years.
Okay, sound. Okay, yeah. So you've just messaged Wesley Street. We will be having a look at that housing, those 70 housing developments across the road from where we are. We're currently in the Caldwell Tavern, which I may have mentioned. We will have a look at that. It's very, very interesting when I talk about boundaries. Where does Talke start? We know where Butt Lane ended, I've just said along this road, but how far did Talke go that way? You know, did it go to Unity Way? Did it go to the Miller and Carter? I've spoken to Philip Lees, the historian, the font of all knowledge, that even Philip can't give me a definite answer. But we will have a look at that deck. I've probably got 200 photographs to support what we're going to be looking at. Some may have never been seen before, but thanks again to everybody on Kidsgrove Past and Pictures who've given me the photos to use, who've given me permission. Then we will have a look at West Avenue. We'll go down to Millbank, Old Butt Lane. Then we'll come up, go into the centre of Butt Lane itself. We'll have a look at some of the shops from the 50s and 60s. We'll have a look down Chapel Street. We'll have a look down Church Street. And any memories you guys have got will be fantastic. I dropped a drop-in session probably about 18 months ago now, where we walked the streets. About 50 or 60 people attended at the Masonic. Lots of good banter, lots of arguments, friendly arguments, saying that was Coeclough's shop. No, it wasn't Coeclough's, it was such and such. We'll have a chat about that, and I'll let you know exactly what I've got here. Then what we'll do for today, we'll finish off in one of Butt Lane's oldest boozers. We'll go down to the Corner Pin, the Crown. We'll have a beer in there and hopefully meet one or two of the regulars in there and sit down and have a chat with them at the same time.
Walking down the avenue where we used to play, the house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records, you borrowed
We've
my...
met the two guys that are going to be joining us today, which is going to be wonderful. So where are we going to start then tonight?
Okay, we're here in the Caldwell, the
Yep.
Caldwell Tavern. What we're going to do is go outside in a second. We'll have a look what the box Crossroads, this is what the Crossroad, these lights.
Right outside here.
These talk Crossroads here were called the box Crossroads in the early 1900s. What we're going to do, we're going to have a look here. I've got photos we can look at on the screen, and what we'll probably do is ask Decca to remind us about some of the places. What was opposite the Caldwell Tavern? Where was Dean's Chip Shop? You know, where was Pacey's Garage? Yeah.
And that was all around these crossroads.
From these crossroads, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
So we'll have a look at that, and we've got the A34 there, which was built by Thomas Telford in around about 1820 to take the pressure off going over the hill, Talke of the Hill. If you didn't know, Talke is a Celtic for high ground.
Right.
High ground.
That's something I didn't know.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll finish there and we'll go outside onto the car park, and Mr. Fell can tell us all about Pacey's. He can tell us about the mousetrap and everything he can remember. After that, we'll move across and we'll go over to the grassed area where Wesley Street, Thomas Street, John Street stood, and we can get some of the memories from the lads on what they can remember about their childhoods.
Looking forward to it, Dave. Let's go and do it.
Let's go.
Walking down the avenue where we used to play, the house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records.
Cheers, Dave.
Okay, guys, so we're on the car park of the Caldwell. Yeah?
Yep.
This was known as the Box Junction, as I said, with the crossroads just above us. Culpert Hill going up there to Talke Pits.
Yes.
Congleton Road going down through Butt Lane, and we're going to have a look across there. We're going to have a look opposite where the grassed area is, which I've just mentioned. But I want to start here. Okay. So, Decca.
Yeah.
What we had here, so I'm told, was a cafe.
Yes. Mousetrap Cafe.
The Mousetrap Cafe was here. We had a garage here. Back in the 1920s, we had Talke of the Hill Station. Up on the top there, we had Bunkers Hill Mine, where the pit disaster was.
Yes.
But what are your memories about the Mousetrap Cafe?
The Mousetrap Cafe, right in front of us, there was a little lane, and that area there was all barren. You could see the black rocks behind.
Yeah.
And people used to come here from the A34 and park up there at night.
Right.
And there were so many bedrooms behind the cafe.
Right, okay.
But upstairs, there was a little bit of casino
A
thing.
gambling going on.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I read on
yeah,
I read on Kidsgrove past some
Yeah.
pictures that somebody recognised it. The granddad used to play cards up there.
Yeah.
They'd refer to it as a casino, whether they did or not. But yeah, so we've got a couple of pictures on the screen that anybody watching can have a look at to see exactly how it was back in the day. The Talke of the Hill first, and then we can have a look at the Mousetrap. And from here, yeah, it's a lot's changed. And what I will say on this crossroads,
Yeah.
at one point there were 3 petrol stations.
Yes,
There were 3.
there was.
One across on Pacey's,
Yes.
which is just to my left.
Yeah.
We got the one which was part of the cafe a bit further down, on the left-hand side as we go down Lindley Road. And then on the right-hand side, I think we got an Esso garage
Yes,
down
there
there,
was.
just before the nylon factory.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good insight into that. And these pictures are absolutely brilliant. Some of these I've never seen before, so thanks to everybody who's put these pictures on. Okay, have a look at the Mousetrap.
Yep.
We've seen the photographs of the Mousetrap. Now we're looking exactly to our left, where we've now got the Costa drive-through, we've got Greg's, and to the left of that we've got TBE. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so here are a few photographs of how it was back in the day. What do you remember about Pacey's?
I remember right on the corner there, as we were going to school, because we had to come this way, there was three or four pumps there
Yeah,
and a building
Yeah.
behind.
yeah.
But the backdrop at the end was nothing behind, it was
No,
going down.
because Hollins
Hollins,
Farm,
yes.
Hollins Farm was behind here and behind opposite St Saviour's Church. So what we've actually got here is exactly what you said. We've got buildings for Pacey's. I've got a really old photograph of Pacey's building originally, and then we've got separate buildings, as you can see on this photograph, that show exactly what the layout was. Later became another Esso petrol station, became a Texaco petrol station, and that was the early 80s from what I can remember. So yeah, that's Pacey's.
Yeah, that was Pacey's.
Yeah. Across here, I think most people will recognise we're on Culprit Hill, all this grassed area, but this grassed area many moons ago was not grassed. In fact, I would say that we stood exactly where
Elsie Dean's one.
Alcy Dean's Chippy.
And Don. Yeah.
Alcy Dean's and Don.
Yeah, Don.
This is where their Chippy was. And here's a photograph you'll see on the screen of Dean's Chippy. Before Dean's Chippy, it was actually a boozer. And it was a boozer where all the miners used to get paid. I'm going back to the early 1900s now, but that's what it was. But as we go along here, you've got many memories. Well, you've got some memories of here. You didn't have them vehicles on the road, that's for
No.
sure. But let's have a walk along.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask you guys, where about was the Gleaners?
Right. We're
The
on his way.
Gleaners was a boozer. I've got a picture here of the Gleaners.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of old friends. Johnny Boson's his dad.
Yeah.
Pip Boson's, Joe Boson's his
Yeah.
granddad on this picture. I've got Phil Bentley
Yeah.
on this picture, who was a regular in the Gleaners. He was a regular in the Woodshuts. So how far are we off where the
Right.
Gleaners was?
I'll start now from Mrs. Dean's.
Yeah.
We've come along, Mr. Stanley's, so all the houses were here.
Yeah.
We come to here, roughly, we're still halfway to where Wesley Street is.
Yeah.
So
So where was
basically,
Gleaners?
the Gleaners was further on.
Further on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was all terraced houses.
This was all houses.
What about the opposite side of the road?
the opposite side of the road there, as you see where the lamppost is there, we used to call that Bricky Hole, Dave.
Bricky
It
hole.
was just a bricky hole. It was,
So there was nothing there.
you could go down
Yeah.
and come out by the fire station, the old fire station.
Okay. So that'll be across Hollins Farm.
That's right.
Okay. So we'll come on to Annie Talbot shortly.
Right.
But we carry on walking
Yeah.
along here.
Okay.
So we're saying that this was houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All houses here.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just go through a few names. Cooks, Browns. There was Mrs. Salt. And we're getting towards where the crossover is now. So there was Lawton's. I'm going to stop in a minute. Delsey's was further up. John's, the butchers. So we stopped just here.
So Dal's the Butchers, is that
Yep.
the same Dal's the Butchers
Eldest son.
that were on Chapel Street?
Ralph Dells, his eldest son, John.
Ralph Dal's eldest son, John. So they were up here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've stopped us here.
Yeah. The reason being, on the corner, there used to come a path up there. And Wesley Street is not far the side of that sign, Dave.
Okay. So Wesley Street fell.
Yeah.
Wesley Street fell.
I can see up the top
40,
by the
50
bungalow.
foot.
About there, yeah.
Okay. So
Right. So the end one here, turning into Wesley Street, was a big church.
okay. So this is I take it this is the Methodist Chapel Church that was on the corner.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I've seen some of the pictures, and here are some of the pictures on the screen now. I've got this church there on the right,
Correct.
yeah, and that would run up to the top of Colpert Hill.
Yeah.
And then there would be a street that goes across the left,
Halfway across. Yes.
and that was John Street,
John Street.
which would run down
Yes.
to Thomas Street.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Where were you, Dad? Halfway up here on the left.
On the left-hand side was the first three houses. There was a shop on the corner. I knew it as Mr. Shields, Phil.
Right.
And then on the far corner, Dave, there was a post office going up to Thomas
Yeah.
Street.
And here's a picture of exactly that,
That's it.
which he's got the chapel on.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Which is where I said my father worked from. In the late 50s, early 60s, my father was working as a postman all around this area
Yeah.
from that post office.
so he used to deliver
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
letters, your
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah.
from this post office
Yeah.
in this picture.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Did you live on Wesley Street?
Yeah, I did.
So you lived on this street?
Yes.
What number?
Number 9.
Number 9 Wesley Street. Okay, brilliant. Let's walk along a little bit.
Okay.
Go on.
I actually lived on Talke Hill at the same time.
Did you?
From 59 to 64, 65,
Yeah.
I lived on Colpert Hill. I don't know what number. I was a baby.
Yeah, which is brilliant. I read a lot on Kidsgrove Past and Pictures about Hope cottages, and there are around about 4 or 5 cottages, white cottages, that were here somewhere. I don't know whether they're on the right-hand side as you go up Colpert Hill. I don't know whether they're on the left-hand side. Here's a picture of Hope cottages, and I see a lot of people talking about them. So, yeah, we've got those as well. So we're going along Wesley Street.
Right.
We're sorry,
And now
we're
we're
off
going
Wesley.
along-
We're going along the main
Yeah.
road now.
We're at the bottom now of Wesley Street.
Yeah, and we're
Right on the corner there, Dave.
So between Wesley Street and Thomas Street were the terraced houses.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And a butcher's. Smith. No. Delsey's butchers are somewhere here. Vince had next door to him,
Vince,
and then the Vince Smithson.
Vince Smithson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Vince Smithson.
So we're walking along here now, and basically we've gone past a few houses, and up towards the end, we're talking about the Gleaners would be somewhere here. We've gone past Delsey's, we've gone past Vince's, the Gleaners, and there was a gullyway, because all this was built up. There was a wall. Obviously, you can see the slant on it.
Yeah.
There was a wall, and people, you know, they had to look over the wall to look down here.
Yeah.
Further on, I can remember.
So are we still looking at nothing on our left-hand side?
No.
Okay.
That was all empty as I remember it.
I asked before, Annie Talbot's.
Right. I'll tell you where the camera is on the left, Dave.
So we've got a speed camera we're coming up to on the left-hand side.
That'd be Annie Talbot's.
Which is probably
This side,
20
Dave,
yards.
was a big a co-op building.
Right, okay.
And I couldn't find out what it was called.
So was it part of the cooperative?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll have a look at that.
Right.
So we're walking towards where Thomas Street was.
Yeah. Mrs. Talbot's.
So, Glenn, just on the left, just on your right-hand side where that speed camera was Mrs. Talbot's. And Mrs. Talbot's, Annie Talbot, which as a teenager, I can remember going to Annie Talbot's when it was on Unity Way. But I'm sure it brings back special memories.
Old English side.
Old English side, a white lightning.
Cheese in a bag with pickles.
Yeah, cheese in a bag with pickles.
And crackers.
Hemmeling lager, don't forget the crackers. But yeah, many fantastic memories of Annie's.
A little fence and a little gate, didn't it, in front?
There at the front.
Right, yeah.
There was
See it on this picture.
a few houses there.
Yeah.
Ticky, he lived there. Hoopers.
Martin McNicholas.
Yeah.
Ticker.
Roy Dunn.
I only remember
Dunn.
Ticker from Fox Gardens.
Wow.
Ticker, I hope you're going to be
Long
watching
day, yeah.
this, mate.
Ah, bless him.
But yeah.
Good days.
Well, we've got the Unity Way estate on the left-hand side, and now we're coming up to where Thomas Street was. I've got this picture, Decker.
Right.
I've got this picture of I think it was a trip to Blackpool.
Right.
I think it was Sunday school. It might have been one of the chapels here.
On one of these.
But on this picture, I don't know if you can recognise anybody. You don't need to tell me now.
Right.
But have a look at it in the future. And I'm sure there are people who are watching this will know one or two of the people.
Well, on this corner here, Dave, Mr. Edwards lived. And if you look across where the brick wall is over there, that was John Boson's
Schoolyard.
Glenn, can you get that? I can remember that.
By the lighters. John Boson.
Across on that wall, John Boson's
And Joan.
Pip's dad, Joe's dad, good friends of mine.
Oh, brilliant.
My old mate Dave Collis used to work for John back in the day when we left school. Yeah, but I can remember Boson's coal yard being over there.
There you go.
Yeah, I can.
Right by the blue sign there, Dave.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant.
Just going up here, we turned in. This is obviously Thomas Street now. Corner house, Mr. Edwards. Are we going up there, Dave? No. Right. I'll just mention, second house up, that's where John and his missus lived with the family.
John Boson's?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Just past the grey building there, that was John Street.
Yeah.
Bit further up there.
Yeah.
But the one on the left was Mrs. Venables.
Right, okay.
So you're going up onto Culbert Hill there.
Yeah.
John Street, we haven't really mentioned it.
No, but we've got some good pictures of John Street.
Yeah.
There's a pot bank.
Yes.
Of course there was.
Bancroft's.
Bancroft's pot bank.
Bancroft's pot bank, that's right, yeah. We have got that.
There's an old photo as well of a church with people outside there, Dave.
Yeah.
It's on Thomas Street.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have a look for that one,
Right.
and if we can put it in, we will put
Yeah.
it in.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said earlier in the intro, this is the only area of Talke and Talke pits that we're covering today.
Right.
Because what we'll be doing, we've got a second documentary where we'll look more at Talke up towards the Swan, to the Cross. We'll go down into Talke pits. But what we'll do today, we'll leave it here on this area, yeah, and then we'll go and have a walk down into the village, Butt Lane village.
Okay.
What we're going to do now, we're going to walk down Congleton Road, and if there's anything down here that brings back the memories, just shout it out. Going to have to take a look at some of the shops from the 50s, the 60s, maybe some from the 70s that you might remember when you were growing up. So, you know, just shout out if we're walking past something. I can remember, I don't know whether it was you, Decker, who mentioned these toilets. No, I think, Phil, it was you, wasn't it?
Nah,
Me. Yeah.
Derek's the toilet man.
Yeah, I went to
Decker hanging around the toilets.
But what it was, it fell out with my parents. So we sleep in there.
You used to sleep in these toilets.
Didn't dare go
This brick building behind the ivy there, they were toilets. I remember them being oh, these?
That was electricity.
That was electric.
Oh, wow. Okay. So these were the toilets, and that was what?
Electricity,
Yeah.
MEB or something
Oh,
then.
right, okay. Okay.
Was this the right same block?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. You used to sleep in there, yeah. And
It's a
we're
careless whisper,
coming
that.
down to St Saviour's School. I'll touch on St Saviour's when we get down to the corner pin. But what we're doing, we've got a separate documentary. We've got one on the schools in the area. We've also got one on the churches within the area. So we won't be going into that much detail on churches or schools on this one, but we definitely will on future ones. But we are coming to St Saviour's. The pictures, I think it was 1895, which I may have mentioned. It was a timber church, and it was demolished. We'll have a look at the dates. I've got a feeling it was maybe 1970 it was demolished, but I've got the dates.
Yeah.
Which was a police station.
Yeah, just round the
Yeah.
corner.
This one was a police station.
No,
Sorry, Phil.
okay, you're right.
Whose was it?
Round corner. Mr. Atkinson's.
There was a family called Bath that lived at this, who kept a shop in Butt Lane eventually,
That's it.
and around the corner was the police station, police house.
Right, okay.
The next one, you can see. It is a police house.
Yeah. Okay. That's in St Saviour's School is where, when you go back to the 1833 Ordnance Survey maps, that Talke actually started from here, St Saviour's School. Everything behind me was Butt Lane, right down.
That's what we agreed on. However, we've had 40 other opinions.
When we used to come out here to play football against Butt Lane, it used to be bread and butter in the gutter.
Yeah.
And it was rivalry, wasn't it?
Well, you were in the gutter.
That's who
Yeah.
I played.
Yeah, that's right.
Over the years, the postal system has changed. Like we've said, some addresses are Butt Lane Talke now, but in 1833, if you look at this map, you can clearly see that Talke started around about here, right up to the Swan.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a walk. Carry on walking.
Walking down the avenue where we used to play. The house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records.
Been down into the centre, the heart of Butt Lane. I've got Hollins Terrace behind me. If you have a look at Hollins Terrace there, just on the right, built in 1874. And if we look directly to the right, this black and white building, Phil, what was this?
I believe it was a dentist, even though I've read recently some say it was a doctor's. But in my view, it was a dentist, and Derek thinks it was gas and air in his memory.
There's a little place there as well, Dave, which interests. It was Mr. Dorms. He was milkman.
Mr. Dorms, a milkman.
Yeah. Can you
Right,
remember that?
down there.
I remember the name, I don't remember the milk.
Yeah. And just here, on that corner, if anybody got a broken window, they used to come down. There was a little, like another little temporary place, what you call it.
Repair.
And you could get glass there. And the garages, obviously, back on to when you go down to West Avenue, to GC Helen.
GC Car Park.
Yeah.
Hawthorne Croft. Well, we'll carry on walking down. The other side of this, we've got Banbury and St Saviour's Street. I've got a few pictures of Banbury Nursery, which was down there, which is no longer here. We walk down, and we start to come down into the centre. And if we look on the corner there, DEH is gone.
Yeah, DH has gone. It's now in Tunstall, I believe. But this was a guy, became Tabiners. Tabiner had two sons around my age.
Glenn, can we get that on? Because that was DEH, the cream building there. This one here, directly in front of us. So I remember this as DEH, but you remember it as Tabiners.
I remember it as Tabiners, and I've recently spoken to Paul Tabiner, the eldest of, I think, two brothers, and he told me that his father took this over from maybe a family called Breeze 60 years ago.
Yeah, Breezes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breeze.
So Breezes became Tabiners.
Yeah.
And then 360 Property Professionals was...
Glenn, have you seen that? 360 Property Professionals.
That was Webb's.
I remember that as Earson's.
And it became Earson's.
Where we used to get a scrumpy from.
Yeah.
We used to get a scrumpy every Friday night and sit outside the clough with one of my best mates, Andy Abel, and drink the scrumpy from Earson's. But yeah, many memories of Earson's.
Well, Webb was his father-in-law.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I read that as well. So
Webb was his father-in-law.
That there, Bill.
Which?
Yeah.
Barber Badley's.
Mr. Badley's. This corner.
I think that was two brothers, two barbers. I wouldn't call them hairdressers, they were barbers.
Just put a thing on your head.
I put a bowl on your head, apparently, yeah.
I probably had him. And then, if my memory serves me right, my mate Pip Bosons, Joe Bosons, John Bosons lived down there on that side, halfway down. We've got the mills, we've got the Fustian Mill, which became Lowe's Mill, which was part of Shamrock. We'll talk about that when we get back to the corner pin.
As I said, my mother worked at Lowe's Mill for a number of years.
Did she?
Yeah.
I think this area, in relation to what it provided in employment, when we talk about West Avenue, is absolutely fantastic. When we get onto ICL, GC, Marconi, Sedulek, all of them, D2D, whatever, they were absolutely a fantastic acquisition to the area of Butt Lane.
I bet there was 100 women worked in
Lowe's.
Yeah.
I've only just come across that. I didn't realise that Lowe's was, it was more of a woolen factory for men, women and children. I've got an advert here from 1970 from Clough Hall Comp. It was called The Clump. 1970-71.
Yeah.
70-71 that shows it's an advert for Shamrock, which was part of Lowe's, the Lowe's group. So we're walking down, we're getting towards our first outlet, really. Tasty Joy, it's now called. It was Wands.
Kennedy's. And before that, Kennedy's.
Yeah, it was. I remember it as Wands. You remember it as Kennedy.
Yeah.
Simon Kennedy was in my class at school. I think this was Simon's uncle, because I think Si Kennedy and the Kennedys had the one on, is it Lower Ash Road or Woodshuts? Not Lower Ash Road.
Lower Ash Road.
Yeah, Lower Ash Road.
Yeah.
But yeah, this supposedly was one of the first in the area.
First Chinese.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
As we chatted earlier, I can remember these doing chips and peas
Yeah.
when they first opened. I really can. We've got Scott's Barbers here. Again, we've got
Coaklif's Paper Shop.
Yeah, Coaklif's Paper Shop, and we've got the legend that is Scott Donaldson in there at the moment. Great big friend of mine, helps a lot with local charities. We come to Pets and Pastimes. Now, this was 3 shops.
I remember one being a chemist.
Yeah.
I remember one being, what I've recently read was Leeson's, but I remember people calling it VG. I've no idea why VG, but there was a chemist, VG or Leeson's, and then the only one I remember then was there was a Co-op cake shop.
There was 2 grocery shops. There's 2 grocery shops here. I think VG was one of them.
Okay.
It depends on the timings. When we had the drop-in session down at the Masonic Hall, people from Butt Lane, people at Butt Lane are so passionate about the area. And we had 60 turn up and we started talking through the shops. And I've actually got a full list all the way down to Millbank on the shops. But all had a different sort of idea. Was that 56? Was that 57? Was it 63, 65? But we have got a full list. And I'll put the full list up on the screen here with what people thought in the 50s and 60s.
You speak about people from Butt Lane being passionate. One thing I recognise here is that none of these shops have stood still. As an era's changed, none of the shops, very few of the shops are empty.
Yeah.
They've re-identified themselves. Something else has moved in.
Glenn, let's have a look across at the Regent across the road there. Okay. This is Butt Lane Picture Palace, opened in 1915, was the first one in the area. There were 3 cinemas in Kidsgrove back in the day, one being Butt Lane, one being opposite the railway, which opened around about 1924, and then you've got the Val, everybody's favourite, the Val, which we've talked about at length, opposite Molly's Chippy, opposite what we know as Tungshings now. Believe it or not, in 1915, the winds were that bad, the roof blew off this, and as you can actually see in this picture now, this is a picture, about 1915, 1917, one of the two, where the roof blew completely off. But some fantastic stories about the Regent. Later became a curry house. It was the Mustard Seed Community Centre. It was the Regent.
Was it not a bingo once?
It was bingo. It was the Regent Snooker Club.
Factory shop.
It was Heath's factory shop. Opposite is the Reg Mitchell Garden, which a lot of the local community have helped support with the benches on there. Tommy Lowe springs to mind, Scott Donaldson again springs to mind, some local councillors, Sylvia Diamond. So we've got that opposite us. You just mentioned...
There were always 2 wooden benches there and 2 telephone boxes, and just beyond there was the mainline bus stop. It wasn't down there, it was always there to Newcastle.
Right, okay. And then if we see behind Phil, we've got the Co-op. We've got the Co-op, the new Co-op there, so we go back to the 70s and 80s, originally Norpac, but I bet you can remember it from the gym.
Popeye's, Jeff
Key.
Yeah.
Popeye's gym was down there. Some of the Co-op IT guys were down there. My mate Paul Venables, I can remember him working there, Malcolm Jepson working there. And as we go down that road, what we've got is we get to Mitchell Ave. And as you can see on here, that's where a lot of people think Butt Lane started. Kidsgrove ended, Butt Lane started. Some people think it started on the corner of 2nd Ave and Low Rash Road. But I think the majority believe Butt Lane started on Mitchell Ave, because on these pictures you can see the Butt Lane fire station. And what Diane, one of the members of Kidsgrove Past and Pictures, she sent me so many pictures of the fire station. Grandad Jack Gallimore actually worked there. So a massive, massive thank you, and thanks to all these pictures. Okay, Phil, we're on the corner. We're outside One Shore.
Yeah.
What do you remember about this place back in the day?
I remember all of this being the co-op.
Yeah.
I remember everything you can see. The little significant building here on the left was the co-op, and it had, I think, it had an upstairs where it sold things like shoes, school uniforms. It's had a butcher's. It's had the regular supermarket type area. So it was a significant outlet for all things. You know, it was like the centre of the shopping in Butt Lane.
Yeah. It was a bakery as well, wasn't there?
There's some schools of thought that there was a bakery. I only remember it as a cake shop, but it could have been a bakery as well.
Yeah.
The first building.
I think a lot of these shops have changed over the years. I think that may have been a slaughterhouse out the back of One Shore.
I don't know.
We've got the pharmacy that's there, that's combined with the post office. What do you remember that as?
It was a bank when I was a
Barclays
kid.
Bank.
Yeah, a bank.
So we've got Barclays Bank there on that side. Let's carry on down. I've got a full list of all of these.
Yeah.
So don't worry if we can't remember every single shop. From the 50s and 60s, I have got a full list.
One memory I have is we spoke about the cobblers, where the doctors is now. When I was a child, there was a doctor's on that side of the road.
Right.
I believe it was a Dr. Pratap, and
Yeah.
it backed onto the Reginald Mitchell sports field there.
Yeah, Pratap did work out of there. He also worked at number 2 Queen Street on Kidsgrove, opposite Kidsgrove Oatcakes, which we've done in a previous documentary. But let's have a walk down. Up on there we can see Butt Lane Industrial Co-op Society, and here 2 or 3 photographs that we've got of this in its day, and they look absolutely fantastic, both internal, both external. But what a location. There were that many co-op societies in this area. It's just untrue. It really is untrue. As we come down, we've got Spice Merchant now, which previously was, any idea?
I don't recall. I only remember one of these shops, and it was the post office. Before the post office moved over there, it was here, and it was run by a Mr. and Mrs. Cumberbatch.
Mr. and Mrs. Cumberbatch.
Mr. and Mrs. Cumberbatch, and I know this from the connection with my father and the post office.
What I'll do, I will post exactly what was here in 1960, and I'll put the picture up, so when you watch this, you'll see the picture pop up. There was a couple of butchers down here. There was a Clogger Chambers, I believe, who is the shoes. Cobblers. So you got Clogger Dean's in Kidsgrove. Originally Clogger Dean had a place here, but the one on Congleton Road was Chambers, and I think the one on Edmonds was on Chapel Street or Scallon Street.
Scallon Street, and it was a shed.
It was a shed.
It was wooden. Yeah. Can you remember?
Yeah, I can.
Wooden.
Yeah. It was a shed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come down.
I struggle with these, by the way. These here. I know that one was Bullock's, which I thought was a dry cleaners, and another was Lily Baths.
Really? Yeah.
But I don't recall which way around they were.
I'll put the list up. There's a couple of butchers here, definitely, without a doubt. I've got a picture of this block here, Glenn. I've got a picture, as you can see on the screen now. That is how this looked in round about 1950, 1960, and that's on the screen now. Again, with these shops, I'll put on the screen what they were. Laura Louise, that's a new shop. The Lunchbox in the 50s, 60s was a wet fish shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as we come down, the Vets wasn't here, but again on the screen it'll tell you what it actually was. On the right hand side we've got Regiment School, okay, which Phil, you went to.
I did, yeah.
My sisters went to that as well. Here's a picture of Reg Mitchum around about 1950, 1952, when it had its extension to the main area on the front, which you can actually see on here. We're not going to talk about Reg Mitch too much because we are going to be talking in a later documentary about the people of Kidsgrove. So that's why we'll just talk about him in general. And on the right-hand side there, we can see we've got Reginald Mitchell's house, where he was born.
I don't recall what this was here.
No. Quite possibly, Derek thinks there was a slaughterhouse here around this back. Most likely, because one of these was a butcher's. One of these was a butcher's. And there were so many butchers and slaughterhouses across the area, it was untrue. Yeah, but there we've got the Reg Mitch plaque. Can you remember the Spitfires flying over Reg Mitch School?
I can, for an anniversary of...
Right, about 1970-ish. What I've actually got is a picture here of the newspaper cutting from the Sentinel that actually showed them flying over with all the school kids out there. Really, really useful.
I left in 71, so I will have been there.
Yeah. Okay. Then what we've got here round the back, what was round the back?
It was Undertakers. And the Chapel of Rest.
Yeah.
And it was Peter Broadhurst and his wife Wilma and the children Martin, Nigel, and about your age, Gary and her daughter Linda. Wow. And as a child, I was a big friend of Martin's, and they had a loft where his father set up a table tennis table and other things like this, and we would spend time there only until. But as soon as someone came to the Chapel of Rest, we had to be quiet for a quarter of an hour.
And you couldn't
fingers on lips, and then we carried on after they'd gone.
Yeah.
Wasn't good. And at the bottom they had a workshop, and the workshop was where they made the coffins.
I've got a picture here of Martin's when he was then. We've said Wan's was Kennedy's.
Yeah.
So which ones was Len's?
Fisherman's Catch.
So Fisherman's Catch was Len Taylor's.
Yeah.
Brian Taylor and Mick Taylor, who most people will know through the Twins, the footballers. I believe that Len's wife, Mick and Brian's mum, actually worked for Kennedy's first before they actually purchased this.
I know that, but as Derek said earlier, when I was a child, you would go in the chip shop and get the chips and peas in a bowl.
Yeah.
Your own bowl from home, and take them home.
Yeah.
But there was next to it was another butcher's.
Yeah, there was.
Which is must have been consumed by the convenience store.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was DeVille's or Baskerville's, and then became DeVille's, I believe.
Yeah, can quite believe it. But yeah, that was 2 or 3 shops there.
And what do we agree this was?
I think this was Co-Clubs.
And I've been told it was Swetnam's.
Yeah. We'll check the dates on that, because it might have been Co-Clubs and after Swetnam's.
Okay.
But when you see the picture that I've got celebrating the birth of Martin, it looks very much like it's that building. I might be wrong, but we'll have a look. And here it is on the screen anyway, and people can make their own mind up. Okay, the legend. The Millstone. The Millstone.
We spent too much money in there. Well, Derek remembers Danny Fitzgibbon. I remember Jim and June.
Wow.
Jim and June, followed by Pete McCourt.
Yeah.
Pete McCourt would have been in the 80s. No, maybe a little later. But Jim and June were my era. But what was his name again?
Danny and May
Fitzgibbon. Yeah.
Brilliant. One pub with lots of memories. I bet you can't remember the gents' toilets being out the back.
No.
Here's a picture on the screen of the gents' toilets of the Millstone back in the day.
Going outside, Dave?
Outside. Outside toilets, 2 pictures here of the Millstone. It's really, really difficult to get an external shot of the Millstone in its heyday. Nobody seems to have one. I've got pictures from the 80s, 90s, noughties of people partying in there. But I've got very, very few pictures of the external.
My recollections were you walked up the stairs, the bar was on the left, there was a little lounge-ish on the right and a pool table in the back room,
Yeah.
and on the extreme right with the toilet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's carry on walking.
Pardon?
Phil, do you remember what that shop was, Corals?
Yeah.
Although it's not the same building, as Derek's just said, it was Wally's.
Wally's.
And Wally's was like a hardware shop that sold just about anything. And bizarrely, my memory, if my memory serves me well, it will have been 60% timber, and of all things to sell in a timber building, they sold paraffin. And they sold paraffin for people's heaters, I guess, during that time in the 60s and 70s. But there was a guy, it was run by a fellow called Joe Wally and a lady, his assistant manager, a lady called Jepson, who came from Butt Lane.
Yeah, and I've got a few pictures. Here's a couple of pictures of Wally's.
And it was one of the, I'm pretty sure they'll be more expert than me on this. I think it was open on Sundays when nowhere else other than a church was.
I think I've read that somewhere before. Yeah. Before we leave the Millstone, I've got a picture here of the Millstone in 1903 on the screen here, which is amazing. It's been about quite a while, this has, and it's got so many memories for so many people. But yeah, it was shame to see it go, similar to the Wood Shuts and a few others that we come across. We've got the tattoo shop on the corner there, which was...
I believe there was a ladies' dress shop on the ground floor,
yeah,
and above it was a ladies' hairdressers.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. That corner had got a shop on. I think it was a grocery shop, opposite corner, and we can see from this picture that there was definitely a shop there. And then remember the butchers on the corner?
Delves.
Yeah.
Delves's. Some stories about Mr. Delves chasing one or two people that you see on Kidsgrove past and pick.
I remember his bench, and I remember he had a big wooden stool in the corner, and a typical butchers of
Ralph.
the day.
Yeah.
But there's Ralph.
Yeah.
I'll remember his wife's name in a second, but there's Ralph, John, Mick, Nigel, Martin, and Leslie.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go around the corner.
Gladys was his mother.
What we'll do, we'll have a chat about what was down there below, down towards Millbank, Monsoon Masala, when we get into the corner pin.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm conscious about time. Let's have a walk down Chapel Street.
Yeah.
Was there hairdressers there?
Yes, there was. Next to Delves was a little tiny hairdressers.
Next to Dalves?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It was a
Some relation
8 foot wide.
Carol Brooks, mate to Carol Brooks.
There was a hairdresser. I'd forgotten about it, but there was.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a wander down Chapel Street. We just walked past Corals. There's new build houses here, but you're saying that this was just a wall.
There was a brick wall across here behind which was a pub car park.
Right, okay.
These clearly weren't here then.
Yeah, so, right, I can remember that when the pub got developed, I think some of this land was sold off. Okay. As we come down here then, where was the chapel, Phil?
On the right down there.
I used to go there, Phil.
Well, we've had the conversation, Dave and I. Can you remember Jack Sambrook and Steve Sambrook?
Jack and Steve Sambrook.
Yeah.
Jack was the father. Steve and Jack was a. I was talking to Alan Buffy about this a couple of nights ago. He was a wrestler called Santos. He called himself Santos.
You're right.
Santos the wrestler.
Honestly, yeah. He used to work with Dad, Phil.
Did he? Well, there you go.
Jack.
This was the Bookies.
Oh, was this Enoch Collins?
Yeah.
Enoch Collins?
Yeah.
I can remember that. I can remember Enoch Collins all over Kidsgrove with liking a bit of a bet now and again. Certainly the one on Liverpool Road. I thought there was an Nolan's on the corner. I thought it was on Main Congleton Road at one point. But when I spoke to Guy Ronald, he definitely said there was one here, which I get.
It was certainly bookies.
Yeah.
That's where my father used to place his investments.
Yeah. Was Enoch Collins. So again, these are relatively new.
Yep.
So we come to Townfield Close.
Yep.
What's this called? The Bumpy or something?
Bumpy Lane, I think.
Bumpy Lane. Yeah. So you used to cut through there from Scallon Street.
Yeah.
And that was called Bumpy. Down behind this house here, behind Townfield Close, where the rails are there, where the looks like derelict land.
Yeah. Dave, none of this was here.
Now, I've got a picture of that house here on the screen with the chapel here, but the chapel was about to be demolished.
Yeah.
So I have got that picture of that house and the chapel behind. But you've got good memories of the chapel.
Here was what we called plain field. There was a park here, a little park.
Yeah.
And behind it, where Townfield Close is now, was a triangle of like a small holding.
Yeah.
I think it was owned by someone called Warburtons.
Right.
And Warburtons, you accessed their property was on the A34.
Yeah.
And the triangle of land went down the Congleton Road, up Old Butt Lane, and on the back of Chapel Street.
Right.
And we as kids played here on what we call the playfield.
Yeah.
Next to it was, as you say, the chapel.
Right. Okay. So
Swings and everything.
Yeah.
Weren't they? And
So-
railings.
Yep,
So-
absolutely.
Built up, weren't
Yeah.
so
It
this
was on
is
2 levels. There was a like football pitch at the bottom.
Yeah, there was.
so this is where the chapel was here.
Yeah.
This has been like this as long as I can remember it. But you used to come here. Was there a gym here?
There was an old-fashioned. There's like a 100-year-old chapel, as I remember it as a child.
And he's
Down
actually
here,
again.
and down here there was like a drive down the side of it.
Yeah, you can see that on
and
the picture.
At the back there was a door at the left, on the left, and as you went in, there was like a little bit of a hall, which became a gym, and on the right-hand side was a bit of a cafeteria, a little canteen, kitchen-type area. But in the gym, there was a guy called Jack Sambrook, ran the gym. He was quite a disciplinarian in what you did there. There was some boxers who came in there. There was weightlifters in. There was Dougie Viles, Buffy.
Yeah.
There was Wacker Oldcroft. And they'd all train in there.
Wacker.
And in parallel with the gym, there was a little bit of a football team going on, ran by people you know, which would be Phil Stonier
Phil.
and Brian Abel.
Yeah.
And around this area, there was kind of, I don't know, 10, 15 kids who all played at the age of under 10s or 12s, something like that.
Yeah.
And there would have been Meadowcrofts, Mellors, Hammonds, Pownell, Batemans. I can't remember all of the names, but they were all kids from around this area who played for his football team based here.
Yeah.
And they called themselves Butt Lane Sports Centre or something like that.
Right.
But that would have been 69, 70, something like that.
Glenn, have you got that? Where the chapel was? Because here's again that picture of how big that chapel was. Yeah. So we're on Scallon Street. Yeah. It has been known, according to the records, it's been known as Cross Street, but it's also been known as Queen Street as well. But in the early 1900s, late 19th century, there were too many Queen Streets, there were too many King Streets, there were too many knocking about, so they started to change the names. But Cross Street gets noted as being Scallon or Right, which the Right Street links both chapel and church. So I've got a picture here. This picture is taken, I think, around about 1920, and we're stood in exactly the same spot where this gent is, as you can see from this picture, and that was over 100 years ago. Wow. But let's walk up to the top. If we carry on filming, we're going up to the top, and you've mentioned the cloggers.
Yeah, just around the corner. Yeah.
So,
I remember it.
so can you remember his name?
I read only a couple of days ago, it was Edmonds.
Edmonds, yeah. So there were 2 cloggers in the Butt Lane area. One was Chambers on the main road, and the other one was Edmonds, which is on this corner here as we go right round Wright Street, which is now rebuilt as the, I think it's the doctor's.
Reginald Mitchell surgery, I think.
Yes,
it's
the surgery. Yeah, I haven't got any pictures of this. I wish I had, to be honest. And there's quite a few pictures missing of Butt Lane. I've got loads of pictures of shops in Kidsgrove, even Mow Cop from the 1950s, 60s. But I am missing quite a few pictures of Butt Lane. But as we can see from there, Glenn, you can see this is where the cloggers was. Obviously rebuilt, but this was Edmonds's.
Right there, Dave. When I used to do a play at the church, I used to have my tea in that lady's house there, Auntie Kitty.
Auntie Kitty?
Yeah.
Auntie Kitty lives there.
Wow. I mean, I was only...
Yeah. My mate Lindsay Bailey lives there now.
Right.
But Auntie Kitty.
Ah,
right.
yeah.
So let's walk along and you can show us where Biff's was. The legend that is Biff's.
I used to get a salmon butty in there, Dave. His face.
Do you know exactly where Biff's was?
Go on.
I think it's where these houses are.
Oh, go on, isn't it?
People about Butt Lane, about the boozers, everybody seems to talk about Biff's, which the real name was the Grapes. Yeah. Okay, and talks about Biff. Was it Biff Harrison?
I don't know.
I think it's Biff Harrison, and everybody used to recall.
I'm not saying that.
No, nobody says. My mate Johnny Watts tells me some stories about Biff's. yeah. And his apron.
He had a
and what
technique
have
for
you.
cleaning glasses, apparently.
Yeah, but everybody has got memories. But that was just here. It was along here. Can you remember any other shops down here? We got David's.
Dave Painter's hairdressers,
So
I don't think it wasn't there in the day. It was further down here. It's further down,
that
on the
makes
right.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
And we've just come up with a name. It was Marie's Hairdressers. It was down on
Chapel Street.
On Chapel Street. Marie again, who's a good mate, who now lives in the States. Yeah, I can remember Marie. Dranken Brennan's, beautiful lady. But if we walk down now and we go down to, if there's anything else that jumps out, because there were so many shops down here and down Chapel Street.
We spoke about Bancroft Pot Bank.
Yeah.
Bancroft also had a small shop on the opposite side of the next road, opposite the oatcake shop, which was, of course, McNicholas's.
So we got the Nicholas's oatcake shop.
Yeah.
We got Bancroft's, which was pottery. Is that right?
He wasn't selling pottery. He was selling, I think he was selling like others around here, just like small grocery items.
Right, okay. But Bancroft's pottery, just remind me, was that on John Street?
It was on Culpit Hill, on the junction of
Thomas Street. Thomas Street.
Bancroft also, Dave, adopted a small workshop at Reginald Mitchell School.
Oh, right.
Where he taught children pottery.
Oh, right, okay. Okay. Well, did we mention, I know I'm going off tangents here, did we mention the organ maker?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so...
That was on the corner, going up, where I said to you, on the corner, Thomas Street, and turning, because we didn't mention John Street.
It's on the corner of Thomas and John Street was the organ makers, and I've got a picture of that here. You can just see in the bottom right hand corner it says organ maker. Right. So I'm glad we've remembered that one.
That's a good one.
I've remembered it. Again, these are all new, but I think now if we have a wander around and go for a pint, and then we can just reflect on what we've done, and I can just cover off a few areas, especially West Avenue, and again, anything that you've got to throw in, because I know you worked there for many a year.
I did.
You were at GEC.
Yeah.
My mum worked at ICL. My partner worked at ICL, Sedulec, D2D for many a year. So we'll have a quick look at that. But when we do businesses across the area, that's when we'll have a more deep dive
Okay.
into looking at how they operated. Street as we're walking down to the corner pin to get a pint, and Phil's just pointed out that here behind us, this was McNicholas's
Oatcake shop.
oatcake shop
Yeah.
on here, and the door was where?
I think it was here.
Just that side.
I think it was here.
Are there any other shops before we walk down?
I think Bancroft's was there.
Bancroft's, okay.
And just beyond the next junction, I think there was a shop there called locally E-Lanes.
Elane's.
E-Lanes. And then beyond the pub was Wakefield's. Wakefield's was a little, it sold cigarettes, it sold, maybe, it wouldn't have sold beer, it would sell cigarettes, crisps and pop and
Yeah.
sweets and these sort of things.
It's interesting, that is, because one of the things I can't find, which I keep putting appeals out for, is Butt Lane Working Men's Club. Yeah. Which was on the main road where the post office was, but before that it was actually in that corner, right in the bottom corner where the corner pin is. You used to walk down a little path down there to where it originally was. Nobody can provide me with any information on that. I've got a few pictures of Butt Lane Working Men's Club inside, and here's a couple of pictures of that from the 1970s. I've got nothing at all on the external, but I think where Wakefield's was, where you're talking.
There's an archway to its right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the community centre was, the Working Men's Club was originally.
To the left of it, where the newish house is,
to the left.
that might have been, that was always, when I was a child, looked like a car park.
Yeah.
There was also, on the left here, what may have been a dairy. It was certainly a milk distribution centre of some sort.
There's a lot of, you know, I mentioned earlier that Talke is the Celtic for high ground. Nobody can tell me what Butt Lane, where it gets its name from. And speaking to the historian Phil Lees, Phil said, Dave, it's something to do with agriculture, because all around here was farms. It was farming. It was. He believes it could be one of three options. His favoured option is it's something to do with butter and Butt Lane. You know, and there was farming. There was Butt Lane farm behind here. We've seen Hollins. There was other farms all the way around. The orchards off Slacken Lane, the farm down that end as well. He believes it may have something to do with butter, but nobody has been able to confirm it with us. Let's go for a pint.
Bread and butter in the gutter.
On the avenue where we used to play, the house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records, you borrowed mine from me. We sat and talked for hours in a box hung in a tree, and we stole your daddy's last bottle of gin. Those were the times. Those were the ways. So take me back. So take me back to the good old days. Looking back from here,
Okay, guys, we're here. Cheers.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers.
Won't be the first or last one of the day.
Brilliant.
But we're back here in the corner pin. Yeah, corner pin that's probably Butt Lane's only remaining boozer now, would you say? There's no others, is there? Been here a while, it's got some real history to it. But what I want to do, because we've had to come back because the light's fading, as you can probably see in the background. We've walked around the streets for well over an hour. We've reminisced, and I'm sure one or two people will be putting us right. That shop wasn't there, that this shop wasn't there, which they do, but that's good. We welcome any feedback. It really is what we need. I want to do a bit of recap. We'll start on Talke 34. Thomas Telford, I mentioned, had the road built in 1827 to take us through Box Crossroads by the Caldwell. We talked about Dean's chippy, one of the best chippies around. I think what I get is a feel for Dean's, Len's, Kennedy's and Phillips and Kidsgrove have all got special memories with the residents still about in the area. I've got a photo here on the screen of the toll bar on Congleton Road, which is by the Caldwell, which was there in around about 1827, and it was a major toll road that led the north to the Midlands. That toll road was demolished around about 1920. So we've had a look about now. We know that there was a lot more in relation to talk we will be talking about when we do talk and talk pits. We've only touched and scraped talk for the moment. We touched on Lindley Hall and the Caldwells. The fustian mills, we had one on Millbank, the old Butt Lane, bottom of Old Butt Lane, and one on Banbury Street. Fustian is a material that's very, very smooth. It's like velvet. It's not actually velvet, but it is. I've got photos here from the early 1900s. There were two in Kidsgrove, two in Butt Lane, 3 at Mow Cop. And you can see from these pictures how long these tables were. Children as young as 13 would work here, and they would walk up to 12 miles a day, because they would walk all the way down the length, and they'd be hooking loops through the material. It was really, really hard work, and these 13-year-olds would get 10 shillings a week for doing this. The fustian mill at Banbury Street later became Lowe's, and you've got a bit of history with Lowe's.
As I said either earlier or yesterday, my mother worked at Lowe's Mill for a number of years, and my history was, I'm not sure if it was being punished or my mother being rewarded, but going on to an annual bus trip to Blackpool. And I remember listening to 50 women singing Downtown or some Cilla Black or Petula Clark song all the way there and all the way back. Yeah, but that will have been 64, something like that, 65.
Right, okay. I've got a picture of Lowe's here on the screen now, and this is a picture of one of Martin Hearson's buses in front of Lowe's. It was also known as the Shamrock of England, and I found this from the 1971. It was called the Clomp. It's way before my time. I've got no photographs of Butt Lane Working Men's Club external. I got the couple internal, and here's a reminder of those two. Behind me on the bottom left hand corner opposite the corner pin was where the original Butt Lane Working Men's Club was. Again, no information. I put appeals out. If anybody's got any, if they can help me, that would be great. I've got a great picture of the Women's Voluntary Services here, which is down below near where the sorting office is. Here's a picture of that somebody's kindly sent in. So that's where we are. I've thoroughly enjoyed the walk today, and an absolute massive thanks to you guys. Okay, Phil's just asked about West Avenue and covering ICL, GEC, etc., etc. We will be covering the businesses, as I've said, as I've mentioned. We've got those memories. Phil from his time at GEC, me from my partner's time at ICL, Sedgwick, and all of those. So don't think we're not going to pick those up. I've already talked about the boundaries and 40 different replies from born and bred Butt Laners and Talke to say where the boundaries lie. This Ordnance Survey maps from 1833 clearly show that the Talke started just above St Saviour's. A massive thanks to Bob Watts. Bob sadly passed away, but his son Rob has loaned me this for a while. It's got names of businesses, of people that lived in the Butt Lane area. There must be at least 80 pages within there, which is fantastic. And a thank you to Chris Austin, who also provided me a map, Ord survey map from 1840, 1850, that clearly shows all the boundaries again within the area within that time. And the farmland is just immense, it really is. But thanks for Chris Austin on that one. Before we leave here then, boys, we're in the corner pin, yeah? We mentioned the fact that the Wrights were here in maybe the 70s, 60s, 70s. Rob Wright, friend of ours. We know the Dudleys were here, 80s, 90s. And very, very sadly, Mark Dudley, the son of Anne and Pete, sadly passed away last week. This documentary is dedicated to Dudsey, which it is. Other landlords, we've just mentioned Jane Parker, Jane Clark,
Yeah.
but Jane Parker,
Oh,
yeah, when she's married, was here. Any other memories of landlords, landladies?
Mick Cowden.
Yeah.
Used to run it. Mick Cowden.
Mick Cowden
Cowden and Wendy.
and Wendy.
They run it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In the 80s, that was when it was a lot of food served.
Yeah.
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 They used to do food in here, and it was absolutely in the
Oh,
day. It was
Wow.
fabulous.
That was.
Absolutely
Yeah.
fabulous. But yeah, thanks very much to the hospitality that the Corner Pin have showed us today. Anything from you guys before we sign off? We've put some steps in.
I'd just like to say thank you very much to you all. I've really enjoyed myself.
We've definitely put some steps in today, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was the usual.
thank you.
I was behind the scenes today, but these guys did absolutely wonderful. So thank you for joining us.
Well done, mate.
Absolutely.
Well done, Dave.
It's a normal tradition.
It is a
You've
tradition.
brought us to a pub,
Ah,
the Corner Pin. Thanks for the video.
Thanks to
Guys.
these gents. Obviously behind the camera, we've got Glenn there, who's worked tirelessly himself in keeping this all together. So massive thanks to you, mate.
yeah.
And of course, there's going to be the usual question from the guys who are watching. Dave, I'm sure they've absolutely loved Butt Lane today. But you know what the question's going to be.
What's next?
What's next?
I think we will either do Talk and Talk pits or we'll go up to Mowcop. Mowcop's an interesting one at the moment, so I've done a lot of research on Mowcop, but we'll come onto that in a future date. We've still got so much to do. You know, we said you got the idea of let's do a single documentary.
Yeah.
We're up to 13. I honestly think we'll end up with 20. But the interest from not just in Kidsgrove, from all over the world has been phenomenal. You know, we're getting messages, as I've said on each one, from New Zealand, from Australia, from the Bahamas, from Canada, from the USA. It's like amazing. And we are bringing back memories. And as you've said, Phil, it's something that we can actually, when we're long gone,
Yes,
it'll
exactly.
be there for our granddaughters, great-granddaughters to look back on and think, you know, it's there's my granddad.
Yeah, it's
You
a
know,
good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
So for the dedication of the video, Mark Dudley.
Mark Dudley.
Mark Dudley.
Cheers, Duds.
On the avenue where we used to play, the house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records, you borrowed mine from me. We sat and talked for hours in a box hung in a tree, and we stole your daddy's last bottle of gin. Those were the times, those were the ways. So take me back to the good old days. Looking back from here, I can see that we were blind to the burdens we would shoulder and the struggles we would find. But growing made